Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we will be starting the quiz in 5 minutes. Quiz in 5 minutes.
Yeah, I was just like, oh, there's like a house party outside. $100 and then watch the second half. Yesterday. So I was like, you've been watching both of the things. Like, watch the first one. Watching the second two. It's like 4.5 hours. And it's like taking like this. No. Last week was the second one. Was it the 2 towers or what? So
Yeah, mine just
I tried to it's like this. I'm just gonna do it. I did like I can do better.
You can do better, that's right.
Yeah, exactly.
But I have an 18.
Oh yeah. If I can do better.
Oh, but it's a
That's what I looked at last.
yeah, wasn't it? Yeah. I have so many performances that I joined it that I keep miscalculating and stuff where I'm trying to like map sure. And if you correct one piece that I had wrong, one piece will work.
Sounds bad. One thing that I know all the JSON and JSON int.
Oh yeah. So you're talking how long?
I just made a bunch of functions. It's just there's so many.
Yeah.
Like assign the function inside of the function that the pointer is going to.
What?
It's an optimization.
Is it worth it?
To be pretty good. It gets my program at 80% faster.
It's good.
Whereas without it, I run it.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. There's
My whole thing is that with my art system on update, I have a bunch of versions of it based off of the whole end scale or end color ones based on which ones are configured.
Yeah.
So that way inside I don't have to do a check for is it configured every time. I just have a function that doesn't check for it.
Cool.
So I just assign the correct function working on start.
Yeah. Nice. Cool. Very good.
Fair enough.
Yeah, so there, like in the future, there could be test cases that actually turn features on or off kind of during gameplay. Which kind of,
Specs that then change
well, yeah. This semester,
that and even
it won't be.
well, that good. I'm still let's say you're in some other component and you grab the particle system and try to edit it. I've actually adjusted those to take getter and setter functions instead of just acting as the thing.
Awesome. Good.
So in the setter
Great.
function, I can say, oh,
Yep.
if you change this,
And then
I'll
just
just
turn
go
it back on.
reset my function pointers.
Yeah, that's good.
So again, fine.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the quiz is likely open. Please begin it as soon as you can. 10 minutes remain. Five minutes remain. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and get started with the lecture. I hope quiz number 5 wasn't too bad. I walked around, I saw some pretty high scores. But if it was not so pleasant for you, if the score was not what you wanted, remember that your worst score is getting dropped. That's going to raise your average really high. And so long as you didn't end up skipping one, I think that's going to result in a pretty good average score for most of you. And if you did skip one, well, at least you got to take a break, right? So not too bad. Okay, so if you look at the schedule this week, right, hopefully at least a big chunk of this week will be dedicated to exam prep, okay? If you recall, we extended homework 9 by 48 hours. So that's going to be due, I think, on Wednesday when we begin our second exam kind of lecture review. I don't like to do that. Hopefully we won't have to do that for future semesters. And one of the big reasons why is that we really do want this week to be all about studying, looking back, all right? Looking back at what you've learned, looking back at your previous homeworks, and if you are just trying to cram to finish homework 9 and get it as many points as you can, well, that's really great for your knowledge of data-oriented programming, but that's not so great, for instance, your knowledge of Lua and lifecycle functions from homework 7. Okay, your knowledge of collision detection from homework 6. And so, if you can, try and squeeze in a little bit of review time, even if you're rushing to finish homework 8, homework 9, before that autograder off date, okay? Remember, you will have a few days. You'll have the weekend following our exam on Friday to grind out and try and grab as many of those points on the homeworks as you can before the autograders turn off on Monday. And remember, it's 4:30 p.m. Monday, so you get most of Monday to grind as well if you want it. Yes?
Is the extra credit assignment with Wolverine Insurrection also due by the autograder shut-off date?
I don't think so. I think that one's due like by the time I submit grades at the very end. But if the Canvas deadline is a bit different, just send me a DM and I'll probably update it. So that is my recommendation for all of you to try and use this week as much as possible to look back. Look back at quizzes. Okay, quizzes are a fantastic sort of problems that might show up on your exam. And in general, I want to talk to you today. It's not going to be the longest lecture, but I do have quite a bit to talk to you about. Last night, I was about 70% done with the exam, and I worked till about 4:30 a.m. I got up about 8, and I did like another 15 or so percent of the exam this morning on like 2 hours of sleep. And so I think that means good things for you, all right? Because I had to, choose more simpler topics and simple solutions in order to understand them this morning, understand them myself. And I got some other news I think you'll enjoy as far as the exam is concerned. But first, I want to talk to you about this really prolific game engine that we have right here in front of us. Our game engine of the day is Monogame. And Monogame really holds a very near and dear place in many developers' hearts, especially if you grew up in the era of the Xbox 360. This was Microsoft's kind of second attempt at a game console. And one really cool thing philosophically that Microsoft did with their Xbox 360 was they said, we're not going to make dev kits that are isolated. We're not going to make these special boxes that are the only ways you can program and test games for our console. No, we're going to turn your Xbox 360 into a dev kit so that you, if you have ideas, if you've got an Xbox, if you've got ideas, you can actually just use your laptop to program and send games to your game console. The first game console that I ever programmed for and had my code running on was the Xbox 360 for this reason. Microsoft had a beautiful program called Microsoft XNA. I have no idea what that means, but you say XNA at GDC, and you're going to see a lot of people's eyes light up. It was too beautiful for this world, and Microsoft shut it down. It was revived in the form of Monogame. And so XNA was basically the framework, the technologies that you used to push your C# written indie game to your own owned local Xbox. So I remember my very first experience with how weak and cheap console hardware actually is was when I was writing a very basic 2D platformer. I was using collision detection kind of in the vein of like a AABB, and in somewhat in the vein of like the main Mags game, which actually used hotspots technique. Not a super advanced technique, but not super slow either. And I could not get more than, I think, about 100 particles before I started to experience slowdown. Now, I'm sure I was doing some relatively inefficient things, but this was hardware that couldn't handle a basic programmer's logic with more than a few hundred objects. It was really very slow. It made me wonder, how on earth does Gears of War run on this console? How do modern, impressive-looking 3D games run? And the answer is by making the absolute most of that hardware. Okay, it's the same experience I had on Switch, where I ported my Unity game to Switch without any optimization, and just the fact that I had a couple dynamic lights in my scene brought our frame rate down to about 13 frames per second. Okay, in a game that is not high poly, that is not pushing the boundaries in computation or graphics at all, and that's how it goes with consoles. Okay. One kind of interesting philosophical thing I would ask you to keep in your mind for as long as you can. In the world of game design, there are the game consoles, which are trying to be as cheap as possible. Why? They're computers dedicated to the mass market, right? Getting people to game. They must be cheap. They can't be $500. They have to be 300, 400 tops, okay? Otherwise, mom and pop can't afford it for their kid. And on the other hand, these game consoles sell on the strength of their graphics, on the strength of their first-party, exclusive, beautiful titles. And in the middle of this tug of war, right, one side wants the hardware to be cheap and garbage, and the other side wants just the most beautiful results out of that garbage. In the middle of this tug of war, getting stretched in half, are the incredible, legendary first-party studios. The Sucker Punch, the Naughty Dog, the Nintendo, the Intelligent Systems, the Forza team, Turn 10, okay? These teams must have the best in the world, okay? I'm not just speaking about the games industry, I'm talking about anyone who knows how to optimize software for hardware, okay? These are the people who are constantly reading new graphics papers wherever they can find them, implementing and experimenting with new techniques, poking and prodding the hardware. I think you saw the footage, the documentary from Andy Gavin, right? How he was just poking and prodding and ripping parts of the PlayStation 1 libraries, right? Core libraries open to try and get every last bite that he could to use for the first Crash Bandicoot game. And that is how it goes. You're going to work on those teams. It's going to be a very, very tough challenge. You're going to learn a lot, and you're going to be among the very best. Okay? Game dev does not always pay the best in technology. It pays okay, right? But you'll find that you end up in game dev, and you're going to be surrounded by some of the most elite, in some ways crazy. I think the term last year was cracked programmers around. Okay, programmers so good that you can barely believe, how did they learn this stuff? Okay, last year that was Nikhil and Ravi were pretty cracked staff to have. Sometimes I thought, Ravi, you should be teaching the lecture, not me. Okay, and I was right. All right, I do not actually know that much about graphics personally, and my optimization, as many of you have discovered on Homework 9, is mediocre. Next year, Homework 9 is going to be way tougher. Okay? You know why? I was profiling. I did that assignment way too fast. I was profiling yesterday. I found a 50% performance boost. Because in optimization I thought I programmed in, I actually ripped out for Homework 7. When I put it back in, it's like, oh, that's how the students have been beating me so badly. Well, in any case, not next time. Not next time.
What was it?
It was, should I say it? I'll say it. You're right, it's not due yet. You all have a good crack on this. It was, I wasn't doing what was discussed in the discussion lecture. I didn't actually have the logic in for doing frustum or camera culling. And so I have particles a mile away, and importantly, I was letting all of those millions of particles get into the sort. The sort is where the lower your number, okay, the lower the number of things you're sorting, you get a dramatic performance improvement if you can make that a small number, especially when you're dealing with like a stable sort. Just wasn't there. Now it's there, and boom! I could not believe it when I ran it to make sure it was working. So it's already done? And that's when I knew I was in trouble, and that the students this year got a huge break. Yeah.
I'm not using that.
when I update the auto graders tonight, I think it's going to put that optimization in. So maybe I'll have to hold it back for just a little bit. I think I can update the test cases without upgrading the auto graders. So I think we'll be fine. A couple of the test cases I found out are a little bit bugged with there's some floats where there should be ints. So I'm going to fix those test cases up tonight. Hopefully that'll be nice. Yeah, what's up?
So you had the optimizations for avoiding stable sort and doing camera culling. Somehow on a couple test cases, I'm almost 100% faster.
Yeah.
And I do neither of them. I just send.
Oh, really?
I just send everything into the image queue.
I'm actually the same as that.
And I also don't bother camera culling.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And I'm also,
You are doing stable sort?
I'm stable sorting everything. I'm not
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, so
Okay.
I'm stable sorting on all the particles. And
That's
I'm
you know
doing that too.
that's optimization for you. Okay. By the way,
Ideas.
hey. Okay. By the way, I think this is a part of what makes the active optimization so fun, right? It creates a lot of community because there's so many different things you can optimize, and it's almost like we're back at the lunch table in the era of high scores. You go to lunch and you're like, hey, I got this awesome score. Wait until all the friends hear about it. And then another person you didn't even hear of, I don't even know this person, comes up and said, I doubled your high score.
No.
What? How's that even possible?
No.
And it's amazing, right? Okay, go ahead.
No, the thing was, I'm not doing your optimization. I'm saying,
I know.
That's insane.
Yeah, I know. Makes me feel a bit inadequate.
Can I get 200% faster then?
Can you get 200% faster?
Because right now on
I think I did
the
the
final test case, I'm 70% faster
Yeah.
while sorting everything.
Okay, all right. Hey, everyone. All right, this is great. Okay, Austin isn't that good at optimizing. All right, great, wonderful. Okay, I get it. Yes.
Can you, maybe after it's due, can you show us your approach to camera culling? Because I've tried to do it.
Yeah.
And I can't get the autograder to ever fully acknowledge that I did it the right way.
Oh, it's slightly off.
Just doing the
so,
calculation for when it's
yeah.
actually fully off and not just
Okay.
on the edges.
So we kind of cheat. So we actually check which we've got a sprite, and we can do a little bit of comparisons to figure out what is the longest dimension, and then you can figure out okay, if that's rotated a certain way, what's the longest it could possibly be, and then we kind of do a radial check. If it is way over here outside the screen, don't bother. If it's way up here, don't bother. And we can do a bit more math to figure out if it's down below the screen or to the right of the screen, to the point where we could never possibly see it, even with scaling and stuff like that. Yeah, that's kind of how it goes. Yeah, it's not pixel perfect. Doesn't really need to be for a big improvement in our case. Yeah.
But the one thing I don't get about doing the whole don't render anything in the camera is you still have to loop through everything, don't you, to see if it's in
Yeah,
there?
you do. You definitely do. So, right, there's this...
It's avoiding the sort.
Yeah, there's this apathy where you say, well, we have to visit every object and do some calculations on it anyway. We might as well just render it, right? I don't know if SDL... I think there is a little bit of overhead to making the SDL call, because then SDL has to check stuff out and decide whether to render it or not. But the big one is the sort. You really do need to do that sort. And you want that number of things you're sorting to be really small, because that really crushes. Yeah.
Even if you're
Yeah.
already, even if I loop through it before the sort, and then I sort with the smaller one, I'm looping through it 1.5 or 1
Yeah.
a bit
So
times. That's still going to be a lot.
it's a lot of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Possibly. Yeah. Well, if you want to know whether it's going to help you,
Yeah.
experiment.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now,
Some of you, I've been looking in your code base. Some of you are doing some pretty funky stuff that I have not seen a whole lot of, and getting strange performance characteristics out of it. And good for you. Okay, this is a good 4 months to experiment, play around, and see what you can discover. Again, I'm a gameplay programmer, really, and I don't know it all. So when you come up with a really interesting technique, please share it with the class. As long as you keep it high level, right? Put it into the Discord, okay? And win your eternal glory for helping someone out, okay? All right, any other comments, questions before we get into it? Okay, so yeah, XNA, right? Famous for Celeste, okay? Small game. Anyone heard of that one? No, I didn't think so. Streets of Rage 4, okay? It's a really good recent game. And if you look at Streets of Rage 4, I wish I would have included some of the footage for this, but Streets of Rage 4 really embraces what Monogame provides. It embraces that minimalist engine category. The team uses XNA, but they actually built a lot of their own custom tools, and they look very scrappy. If you see the tools, they look kind of hacked together, but it's perfectly functional. It does everything they need and nothing more. And that's how it goes when you go the minimalist route. You are very much kind of building a gigantic experience in a cave with a box of scraps, right? And so you're going to be very, very efficient with what you need and what you don't. Yeah, it's very, very popular. People love C# as a language in part because they learn it through Unity. Unity and now XNA are two of the main driving forces for C# as a platform. Okay, it is the crown jewel of C# as a language, so that's it's very, very nice for an engine to choose a language that already has a lot of support out there. Godot's primary language, do you know what it is? You know what it's called?
GD script.
GD script. Okay, a lot of people love it to death, but it's not going to get you a job. Okay, if you learn C# because you're learning it in order to use Unity, well, you can use C# on a lot of things. Okay, the autograders in this course are written in C#. There are web stacks, right, especially at Microsoft houses that use C# for a lot of things, like running servers, okay, back-end applications and stuff like that. How many studios out there are using GD script? Yeah, not a whole lot, okay? You're going to use it for Godot, and that's it. And that allows GD script to be very kind of tightly integrated in Godot. That doesn't seem to be that compelling, though. I mean, C# is very tightly integrated into Unity, so I don't really see the appeal there. Unreal Engine has, for the longest time, had this very awkward situation where if you want to script, what do they use? They use blueprints, a very verbose, kind of slow, but beginner-friendly visual language that reminds one of MIT Scratch. If you want textual programming, you say, oh, I don't need that, I'm not a beginner, I want textual, nice programming like Unity has with C#. You have to go all the way down to the C++. That's it. No managed language for you. C++. And if you have a seg fault, the entire engine is going to crash. Okay? Have fun loading that back up and wasting a few minutes every time you make a mistake. That stinks. So Unreal finally decided, hey, you know what? It's all good because we're going to give you a managed language that fits right in the middle. Okay? It's going to be fantastic. Okay? What did they end up choosing? C#? C#, all the Unity devs were just hoping to come right over to Unreal. If they choose C#, we're diving to Unreal, right? Tim Sweeney says we're going to steal all those Unity developers by releasing... Who said it? Verse. Verse. What? What the heck is Verse? Okay, Verse is... it struck me as like functional. It has very weird syntax. It's not really like C#. It is a managed language, but it is proprietary to Unreal Engine. Great. We just have now a GD script, okay? And so you get very little value as a kind of human being who needs to pay the bills and might need to take other jobs outside of game dev one day. You don't get a whole lot of value out of learning Verse, okay? And so it's very disappointing. Anyway, okay, how did I get on this tangent? Monogame uses C#. Might have been one of the reasons that Unity chose to use and integrate C#. And it was a fantastic decision. The language gets stronger, and you can bring over a lot of people between these engines to fill the gaps. Talent liquidity gets much, much better. Okay? All right, minimalist, blah, 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 blah. They do provide facilities for rendering, input detection, audio playback, but not a whole lot else. There are external tools that can be employed and developed, and this is what you will do. The tiled map editor is my recommendation for anyone who wants to make their own visual editor for their engine, kind of Unity style, okay? Basically, I mean, I think you've already seen this before. I use this to make the main mags level designs. And you can go in and you can actually create things like templates and give them properties. You can actually click on objects, move them around, and then give certain objects in the map properties that are overridden or customized. Last year, we had students basically have their engine ingest the XML files that are output from tiled, and then edit and set up and override values on their actors and components in the same way that we currently do with JSON, okay? Except it's XML. I think you can get tiled to export JSON, but it's not the default, which means there's going to be a lot of friction if you choose to use tiled JSON. All your game designers are going to forget to do it, basically. Yes?
I saw there was some way to do a custom output format from tiled.
Yeah,
so like,
probably.
Do you know, like, has anyone done it that way instead of having the engine interpret tiles?
Yeah, I don't recall. Maybe, but you'd have to look back. Eventually, what I plan to do is on a2engine.org, I plan to have like a database of all the student engines, so you'd be able to actually go look it up. Which previous course engines did this? How did it go? What did they do? Because they also have cool videos and stuff like that. But, okay. Blah, 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 blah. Permissive MSPL Microsoft public license. I don't know a whole lot about the details, but people generally regard it very well. And of course, you can see that plenty of games are being sold very effectively with little friction under this license. So that's a really good sign. Congratulations, there are no more quizzes in the course. You have completed that nastiness. And in the final 3 weeks, you will only have to worry about one gigantic quiz covering everything. With much higher stakes, and no open book or internet or notes, okay, or scratch paper even. That's actually banned starting with this semester. But beyond that, it's just a really big quiz. And after that big quiz on Friday, then there's no more of that nastiness, and you can just kind of chill and make your custom engine feature, and have a good time. Okay. All right, question. How did homework 9 go for those of you who are finished or mostly kind of finished? First debut homework, okay? And so I am in data collection mode. I am ravenous to understand how it went and if there were any rough edges we can polish. And I already read Evan's lengthy feedback. I don't think he liked it very much.
I liked it a lot.
You liked it a lot, did you?
In retrospect.
In retrospect.
It was fun to make it faster. I think you should leave the staff solution at the speed it is.
Really?
Because it feels really good to just get absolutely hit on performance in every single other work, and then to get to this one and actually see Sonic the Hedgehog again
for the first time. Well,
very gratifying.
Yeah, I want you to see those things after you've optimized a lot. I read some feedback, I can't remember who said it, that said they actually skipped the data-oriented approach and just did the object-oriented approach, and they still got the points. So that's actually a bit of an issue, right? I probably won't optimize it a ton more after just putting the culling in, because I don't want to actually crush everyone. You only have a week. Yeah.
I guess the one major optimization that I did was instead of storing for each particle what its lifetime is, I would store its lifetime percentage as a float and simply add the 1/over duration frames to it every frame.
Yeah.
So by doing that, I was saving doing an extra division operation.
Aren't you having like off by one issues?
Yeah, I was having a lot of floating point off by
Oh,
one
and now
issues,
you're rounding to
but
fix that or something?
Yeah, I've got all that figured out.
How are you rounding without the autograder getting angry? Did you write your own rounder?
I'm essentially doing like a cut down. I'm
Okay,
multiplying by an integer and then dividing by that same one to just say,
Okay,
I just
gotcha.
want this many digits.
All right. Yeah, kind of feels like cheating. That's all right. It's okay. Yeah, but it's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting that that does provide a performance gain. Yeah.
One kind of weird thing I ran into was after I finished test case 2, I had like 95% overall.
Yeah.
Without doing 3.
Did you just get all the 3 points without doing anything? Or
So I think I got like only some of them, but like without implementing them, I had like an acceptable grade. I thought like I would have felt
Yeah.
okay. if
Yeah, you're right.
was put in there.
You're right. It's skewed. It's definitely skewed because of just how many test cases are in 2 and 1 that aren't in 3. So 3 is going to be way longer next year. You have a lot more test cases. We'll probably have more test cases in 4 as well. And so it'll probably be more like around 70, 75% once you finish all of 2. Yeah, I'm guessing. But yeah, you're right. Yeah, I saw that as well. Yeah, it was amazing how fast people were getting into the 90s after I released the homework. It was like Monday night or Tuesday or something. I'm thinking, oh my goodness, something must be broken. No, not really. It's just a relatively straightforward homework. Yep.
I think also the thing about that was if you like made it so you could add the particle system at runtime while you were doing 2, then it would also give you like half of those 3 points. And I don't know if it gave you the 4 points, but because that was like part of the part 3 or the test week, I think.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
I thought it was a good homework though. It was enjoyable. It was kind of fun to see everything.
Yeah.
And the optimizing, it was optimizing. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like fun, and then it's
Frustrating.
You're banging your head on the wall at some point.
Yeah, I think once you've achieved correctness, optimizing is very satisfying because now you can just submit for free and you don't have to worry about breaking things. That is the benefit of test-driven development. You have benchmarks that you can go back to make sure that your little changes don't break stuff. One thing I've been wondering is like my similarity score minimum requirements. Like I wonder how many broken solutions are getting through the test cases because those are too low. The deep fear here is that someone just chooses not to implement the requirements and they still pass because the similarity score isn't tight enough to catch them skipping the requirements, right? Or they've got a bug. We're supposed to reveal the bug with the similarity scores, but nope, similarity scores are too loose, and thus the bug survives far longer than it should. Okay. So yeah, next year is going to be different, okay? But not incredibly so. Okay, so I'm working on, here's your good news, all right? This is what you all tuned in for. I finished the final big C++ problem last night. Definitely the easiest one I've ever made. But I've only made 2, which is to say it is, what did I say here? It is mildly easier than last year's final problem. That is, if you don't get distracted. Because one thing about the problem is that definitely kind of has a lot of stuff in it, but the amount of stuff that you actually have to do is very small. And as long as you can connect some dots, you're going to be in very good shape on that problem. And so I think this is more of a general principle, but when you are, and you've probably felt this, when you're in your big code base, your big game engine code base, there's so many things going on, it can get kind of difficult to find the right place to do your work, or it can be easy to forget about the work you've already done, okay? Create redundant work or get really frazzled. I'd heard a rumor, and I don't know how true this was, but I'd heard a rumor that people on the Windows operating system development team, like, they used to, at some companies, they used to gauge your quality and your work by the number of lines of code that you wrote per day. Okay? And can you think of any issues with that? Well, think about this. On the Microsoft Windows operating system team, the number of actual lines of code that would get written and shipped in a day was like one hand maybe. Okay, on average. Not many lines of code at all because every line of code needs a lot of thought. This is kind of the 482 style programming, where your actual projects aren't that big, but you do need to be very careful about what you write, what kind of logic you have when you're making a threading library, right? And so it's not going to be 482, don't worry, on this exam. But yeah, just whenever you're feeling confused or frazzled or you don't quite know what's going on or what you should do or where you should start or something seems contradictory, spend some time just looking and taking inventory of what do I have. In general, it's not on the exam unless there's a good use for it, okay? That is not completely the case, but like if there's certain functions and stuff added to a class and hard-coded on there by me, like I put those there because I thought it would make your life easier, all right? So that's a really good kind of test-taking hint. Take inventory of what you're being given, and that might kind of push you toward a solution that's actually surprisingly elegant or simple in some cases. After writing the solution code for the exam, I could hardly believe it. In fact, I had to add some additional requirements in because it was so easy and so small that I thought the students would probably look at the big box I gave them. I actually had to make the boxes for the answers smaller so that you wouldn't think there was some trick or something. Amazing. Oh man, I think I'm at like 15 hours working on this exam. This stinks. Okay? You think, how on earth can it be 15 hours? Well, the thing is, number one, there are quite a few questions. They can't be bad. They actually do have to connect to concepts from the course while also not being too much. So there are a lot of things you're optimizing for. And that means you spend a lot of time just thinking and you create a solution. Nope, that stinks. So you throw it away and got to create another question now. And yeah. Also, very frustratingly, I can't reuse anything from last year. That really stinks. And this can become a huge problem, okay? Because game engine architecture is not an infinite field. And the amount of things we're going to teach isn't infinite. And so eventually, I'm not sure what we're going to do. They're going to be like, we've literally created a question for every topic. And just grinding the exams is going to be like, yeah, you can just kind of bulldoze your way through the next exam by just grinding all the previous ones, which we can take a look at if you want to. I do like that previous exam quite a bit, but I also messed up a couple things. That was kind of funny. Yeah, I can tell you some stories from last year's exam. I'll tell you a quick story and then I'll get your question, Evan. This year, we will be very strict. You will not be able to receive or bring in any scratch paper, okay? We will not be grading anything that's outside the answer boxes, okay? Why? Because last year, what happened was, most students did just fine, right? And they very nice handwriting, or at least legible handwriting. But on occasion, we would get answers that were very clearly DDoS attacks, okay? And where basically the plan is this, okay? I don't quite know what I'm doing on this problem, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to write stuff that is kind of illegible, and the grader is going to fill in what I'm writing in their head with the answer. And that's one side of the technique. The other side is that I'm going to write a ton of code and scatter it across like 5 pages of scratch paper, going back and forth, functions calling other functions, to the point where I can't prove it's wrong. And that takes me like an hour. And that's what happened. I would get to these and I would have to like comb through them or even write them up and simulate them to prove that this solution is broken. Okay?
They were doing like SQL injection.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
It kind of feels like that. Well,
Now imagine like there were actual
yeah.
people
Yeah, in any case, the point is to basically like cause us to just kind of okay it because we're dumping too much time in. No, the opposite's actually going to happen, okay? If your writing is not legible or we start losing time to try to figure out what you're saying, we're just going to consider it wrong and cross it out. If it's outside the box, if it's on scratch paper, if it's on the back of a page of paper, we're just going to cross it out and get rid of it and then grade what you did put in the box, okay? Now, if you have handwriting, like physical handwriting, okay, no typing during this exam, that stinks. like go and put a little bit of time into drawing, okay? You will have erasers there. I have a big box of good pencils in case you forget. If you want to bring a big chunky eraser, then that is recommended for sure, in case you need to. Remember, you have quite a bit of time. So if you do need to erase some stuff, erase it thoroughly, please, and then move stuff around, make some more space. Don't worry. The amount of code you actually have to write is not crazy. The good news, I said, is that the C++ question is, the big one at the end is easier than normal. I'd say the Lua question's slightly harder, okay? Not crazy hard or anything like that. But you're going to want to write some Lua. You're going to want to go in and instantiate some stuff. Go use templates. Go use some of your functions, okay? Image.draw. Go practice your handwriting, okay? Because I kid you not, you might lose a ton of points if your handwriting is stanky, or if it's super big, okay, and not super, not particularly space efficient. That could be a problem. So, all right, what else do we got for you? Okay, blah, 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 blah. Okay, remember what's available to you, okay? Exam, oh yeah, Evan, go ahead, go for it.
Two things.
Yeah.
Is the last exam available somewhere?
Yeah, of course.
On the course schedule.
Yeah, we've pointed this out a couple times in the class. Yeah, go to the exam homework assignment where you will find the previous exam right here with answers. You can delete them if you want, make a copy, delete all the red text, and you're good. Yep.
I did post a version in the Expedition channel where it is just an empty exam.
Oh, cool. Yeah, good for you. What a champion.
Second thing.
Yeah.
Have you decided on when extended time you can take?
Yeah, extended time. I think I talked about this with everyone who reached out, but extended time is going to happen earlier, before the exam. So first of all, if you just need extended time, the course, the exam itself is extended. It is designed for 2.5 hours. It is 4. It's just that, yeah, everyone's getting it. Yeah, that's how it goes. There's no curve in this course, so it's not really affecting anyone. If you need, for instance, for religious reasons, to take the exam early so that you can get out of it early, then what's going to happen is we're going to start you in the Wolverine Soft office about, I think, 2 hours early. And then once the actual exam starts, we'll kind of transition you into the main room, 1670 Beister. And yeah, you can just keep going. We will end, we'll collect your exam 2 hours before the end at that point. So same amount of time, but shifted a bit earlier. Yeah. Yeah. I need to go look up who needs this stuff. I think I can find it. But it might be worthwhile, if we haven't talked in a bit, to come up and talk to me or send me an email if you're expecting to use those alternative hours, okay, the earlier hours. Yes?
If we end early, like say you're trying to shoot for the game to be 4 hours, what happens if we end on like the earlier side of that 2 hour mark?
If you do what?
If we end around the earlier 2 hour mark, what do we do then? Do we just wait the 2 hours? Or?
If you complete the exam early,
Yeah.
you just hand your exam to me and say I'm done. Yeah, and then you walk away.
Okay. It's not like other times it's like, man, you're getting held here until
No. If you need to use the restroom, because 4 hours is quite a bit of time, basically you just hand the exam to me, let me know. I'll take a timestamp of when you stepped out, so long as you're back in 5 minutes, I won't rip up your exam. But I definitely will rip it up if you take more than that time. Okay? And please do not ask to do this more than about once. Otherwise, I want to know the medical reasons that you need to keep ducking out. Don't do that. Yeah, don't do that. All right. Okay. So anyway, let's keep going through this. Preparations for the exam. If you look in this GEA exam assignment spec, you'll find a lot of things that kind of give you a lot of pieces of advice. And a lot of this is in this lecture as well. Okay. In this exam, just so you kind of understand the policies, it's going to be cumulative, okay? It potentially covers all topics thus far mentioned in lectures, discussions, homeworks, quizzes, stuff like that. In general, most questions are aimed at a very particular topic that came up during a lecture or on an assignment. And many of the questions you're going to deal with might feel kind of familiar. Okay, and they should. If you've been paying attention to lecture, if you've been doing the homeworks at a decent pace, a lot of it may very well be familiar, which is good news. I mean, that just means you learned it. Okay, curve probably not going to happen. It didn't happen last year. I think this exam overall is easier than last year's, not by much, but a little bit. No notes or devices or scratch paper will be allowed. If you bring in a backpack, we're going to want that down, okay, beneath your table, or if I get too paranoid, we'll put it at the front of the room. I'm not technically proctoring the exam. I'll just be at the front of the room, just kind of chilling, and I'll have some announcements up. If I need to make any corrections, usually 1 or 2 happen, just telling you to like update something, then I'll put them on the board and announce them. I'll also give you warnings like 3 hours remaining, 2 hours remaining, 1 hour remaining, okay, stuff like that. Right, what else? You will be required to sign the honor pledge at the front. By the way, that reminds me, I have the front page for you. This is going to be just like super good information right here. This is definitely what you came for. Here's the intel. These are the general problem categories, okay? Are you ready? There you go. There's the front page of the exam right there. Can you believe it? Now, if you look closely, you'll notice that they're the exact same categories as last year. Well, at least you know, right? You also have some different friends this time who might be familiar to you, who may or may not help you on the exam or appear in different parts of the exam. We'll see what happens. So there you go. What else? Okay, yeah, writing outside the box, don't do that. Making it too small or too illegible, don't do that. Don't make your writing too big, otherwise you won't have enough room. If you do run out of room, yeah, just erase some stuff, okay? No big deal. You know what's interesting? You'll have a packet, so you'll have scratch paper, but we won't accept any for grading purposes. If you want to just take some notes and stuff, that's totally fine. You can write on whatever you want. But what's going to happen is you'll have the questions on one packet. You'll receive 2 packets of the exam. You'll have the questions and documentation on one packet, and on the other, you'll just have your answer areas, places you can circle stuff, boxes for you to write your code in, okay? So expect that. That should make the act of actually writing code and looking through documentation way nicer, because you don't have to scroll through a bunch of pages in order to write your answer now. You can do it simultaneously, which should be very nice. What else? Something fun. Oh, the matching pyramid you all made fun of me for, it's gone. It's dead. Okay, I hope you're happy. Okay, you bullied me out of the pyramid. Okay, I have a more traditional approach now, and we'll see if it's actually better. I don't personally think it is, but hopefully it won't lead to as many strange expressions I saw last year. As I watched people flip into the first few pages, they're like, what the, what is this? Oh, man, oh, goodness. All right, well, anyway, okay. Front desk, walk around, logistical, yes. I'm really here in the room to kind of answer logistical questions and make announcements. In general, if you come up to ask me to clarify a question, there's a very good chance I won't be able to answer that. If a question is garbage and is very ambiguous, you'll get full points for it at the end in any case, or I'll just provide participation points to cover it. Yeah, so know that I can't really answer questions for you or give you hints, okay? It wouldn't be fair to everyone who didn't walk up. Okay, questions won't be exceptionally obscure. The students receive a lot of time on this exam. I think you will enjoy it. You don't need to use all the time. I would say about a quarter of the students last year chose to just hang around and just chill and used all the time. But a lot of people went out. We had a lot of people leaving at like the 2-hour mark, say probably around 20 to 30%, another 20 to 30% at like the 2.5 to 3 hour mark. And then we had a nice chunk that kind of filtered out. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, you can bring a sharp pencil and a functioning eraser. I'm going to have a bunch there for you. I think I'll have enough for everyone, even if you all forget, but please bring your own stuff, okay? Mechanical pencil, I'm sure you have a writing utensil you prefer, okay? You might not want to see my pencils, They might be really nasty, okay? I did not sharpen them since last year, so you might have to deal with that. Yeah, cheat sheets, okay. Yeah, don't bring that stuff. Okay. Blah, blah, blah. I think that's all. Okay, what else do I have? Should be fairly straightforward, I think, if you've cleared homework 9. Even if you haven't cleared homework 9, I think you'll be mostly okay, as long as you've, for instance, kept up with data-oriented programming. You might not have finished the homeworks, but as long as you have kept up with the lectures and kind of know what's going on, you should be in a reasonable shape. Questions are, in my opinion, generally a bit easier than the quizzes, aside from the programming ones, of which there will be 3 programming questions. 2 Lua, 1 C++. Let's see. Should be fairly tough if you haven't been keeping up with lectures and homeworks. That's no surprise, though. A quick anecdote, like I was always one of those students who was really good on the projects and bad on the exams. And I kind of always chalked it up to just like not being a very clutch test taker. In reality, as I got toward the end of my career and adjusted my studying habits for exams, I discovered that I just wasn't taking exams seriously like I should have. I wasn't grinding the way I should have. I wasn't dumping hours like I did into projects into the exams, okay? I don't blame you if you're the same way. Exams, in my opinion, are kind of boring. Projects make things come alive. They are things you create. We are engineers. We build things, right? But if you can, techniques, right? Getting together with a team member, going through old slides, going through old quizzes, okay? Old projects, okay? Could be a very good way to get yourself to put more time in than you would normally have the morale to do, okay? So anyway, you can consider, here's some advice, you can consider making some flashcards for the Game Engine of the day. The point here is not necessarily the cards themselves, it's the act of making the cards, forcing you to kind of go back through and remind yourself, what is the most interesting facet of this particular engine? The game engines of the day tend to show up in the matching section, which means that even if you lack knowledge of a particular engine, you can often figure it out via process of elimination. There's a reason that we do matching for this knowledge. Spent a couple hours writing Lua components and putting together a little miniature game. I saw someone doing a little platformer in the Discord, which was sick. Hopefully, we see more of that over the next couple of days. But that's a really darn good idea. Okay, there will be some hints as to Lua syntax and what function calls exist, what are the APIs for those calls, but it's lightweight, it's kind of minimal, and you want to have a very good feel for how game projects in this engine tend to be structured. Okay, so right, sometimes you have to grab an actor, and that actor is going to have components, but you want to grab a certain type of component. Once you've got it, you need to do these things to alter it, right? So understand that stuff. Lua has a lot of foot guns, okay? And you're going to want to know what those big foot guns are. We went over them in lecture, but play around with them, right? Prove them to yourself in an interpreter, okay? Or in your own code base. Get a feel for how Lua works because some of those issues might show up in your problems on the exam, okay? Review what you did to kind of bring lifecycle functions to life in Lua from C++. This is like mainly the final question in the exam where you have to write some C++ to bring something to life in Lua. If you're particularly ambitious, you might even look at like, okay, what could he choose that would be reasonable and interesting to program and well-scoped enough to be, possible on an exam with a little bit of help. And maybe you end up implementing the thing that I chose. That would be a very nice situation for you, wouldn't it? So I recommend just thinking about what kinds of things, how did you bring the onStart, onUpdate, onDestroy, onCollisionEnter to life? And think about what other things you might be able to bring to life and just vaguely what you might do if you needed to do that, okay? Review the quizzes, understand the questions you got wrong, but also take another look at the ones you got right. Make sure you understand why. First quiz, not so important. Don't panic or get too anxious. You have plenty of time to take a rest. Not walking around the building, okay, or going to the restroom for more than 5 minutes, but just kind of chilling and kind of sitting around, okay, look up at the ceiling, right, relax a little bit. Don't let yourself get tight. It's very easy to start making dumb mistakes on an exam if you get all wound up, okay? It might put you at ease that most of the points in this course are coming from that engine and those quizzes, and there's extra credit on the way, and you're going to get a bundle of extra points, easy points, on these final 2 custom engine research assignments, right? Custom feature assignments. And so even if you have a bad day at the office on Friday, probably going to be okay, all right? Hopefully that will keep you loose, all right? Even if you train wreck it just a little bit, I think you'll be okay. We also have plenty, don't forget, like some of the questions on the exam are a bit tricky, but plenty of questions on the exam are literally give me's, okay? So don't panic too much. You'll be able to get some points for sure. Okay, if you need to use the restroom, blah, 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 Yara said. Yeah, no question is really random on the exam. Like I look at something in the assignment specs or in the lectures, and I'm like, how can I create a question about that? So when you're reading the question, you can think to yourself, what is Austin trying to remind me of that he tried to teach me? And you can kind of work your way backward, jog your memory a little bit, right? Use the problem to help you out, and you can get rolling that way. I'm not sure how to solve this question right away, but it does remind me of something that from lecture, right? What do I remember about the topic? And you might remember more than you think. Take note of generous, obvious amounts of white space. If it exists, there's a decent chance we put it there, so you could consider writing something. This is less true this year because you don't have scratch paper or being more strict on the boxes. The box might actually be big because we're worried about students who write in very big font. So this is less true than it used to be. Okay, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, policy change. No extra scratch paper can be turned in. Last year, if you wrote code on a piece of scratch paper, we could staple it to the exam and we'd grade it. This year, we're not going to do that, okay? So don't ask us to, please. Okay, know each game engine of the day we've seen up to the exam. Okay, you don't need to worry about the ones that come after the exam. We will have a few after the exam. You don't need to know much about each, but every engine has some reason that it was chosen, okay? Try and get a feel for what that is, and you'll be in good shape. Know about the most popular engines that have come up in lecture, okay, and in homeworks 1 and 2. Know just a bit about them, right? Know about their categories. Not a bad idea. Lua, okay, know about those Lua foot guns and those who are kind of enumerated in lecture. Be vaguely familiar with like the Homework 7 API. You don't need to know exactly every parameter in order, because if it's needed, it's going to be in the glossary at the beginning of the exam, okay? So you'll have them there. But it would be nice, you'll save some time. It'll be a bit more comfortable for you if you're like, oh yeah, image.draw, I kind of know how that's set up, yeah.
Is the glossary the same as last year's?
It's a bit different.
Would you be able to post it ahead of time so we have access to it?
Yeah, I think I could. Yeah, DM me on Wednesday, because Wednesday is my deadline to finish the exam, so I can print on Wednesday night or Thursday if the machine breaks. But yeah, okay. Be prepared to write some basic Lua. No surprise. No common Lua operations, right? Adding and removing something from a table. That's actually in the glossary to help you out. But know what iPairs does, okay? Inheritance is a big thing, okay? The nice thing about inheritance in Lua is that it's just a one-liner, but it's a funky one-liner. Like you kind of want to get a feel for what it's kind of doing and why it looks the way that it does. Go back to that Lua lecture where we introduce inheritance and see if you still understand what's going on. Know how to iterate through a table and use backwards and use insert and table.remove. Maybe a bit less important this year. I haven't finished the 2 Lua questions entirely, but this is also in the glossary, reminding you how to do it. So not critical that you remember it. Remember that it's a thing, and remember why it's a thing. Why do you iterate backward through things sometimes, through containers? That's a good question. C++ pragmatics. Everyone loves the linker, the compiler, all those lovely headers. Okay, you remember the 4 questions that we care about when it comes to compiling a C++ program? Remember what they are, right? 2 of them deal with includes, 2 of them deal with libraries, okay? What do you want to include and where should I look for includes, right? What headers do you want? Where should I look for headers? And where, which libraries do you want and where should I look for them? Okay, so 4 questions, keep those in mind, that'll help you out a lot. Try and remind yourself of generally how you set these things up for all 3 operating systems, okay? That should serve you very well. Container algorithmic complexities, when you decide, hey, what container do I want to use to store my components? Okay, that's how do you make that choice? Okay, what are the basic complexities of the operations for those containers? Not a ton of relevant containers, but you want to make sure you know them. Shared pointer could show up. Remind yourself of basically kind of how it works, why people want to use it, and you don't have to worry too much about the syntax. It'll be in there. If necessary, it'll be in there on the glossary. Okay. One I didn't put in here that I'll point out, events. So event pub/sub was a thing on homework 7. I think it was, no, homework 8. It was buried in homework 8. Coroutines were buried in homework. Actually, it was just a lecture. Yeah, it was just a lecture. So, yeah, look into events. Remind yourself of how you implemented the very popular pub/sub, event design pattern, and remind yourself of the basics of coroutines. Probably just like, why do people care about these? What do they help us do? All right, that was kind of a one-off lecture, but it's an important topic. Box 2D, right? You want to know the difference between these different Box 2D data structures that you're given and how they can kind of be customized. And remind yourself what the B2 contact listener was used for. Still one of the strangest ways that I've seen basically a callback system for dealing with raycasts and all of that. Just very odd. I remember how confused I was the first time I was looking up that documentation. Like, oh, wait, okay, I gotta create a class that derives from another class. Hooking it up makes sense. Yeah, kind of strange. But anyway, okay. Be ready to write Lua. I think I've said that like a bunch of times. Be ready to write some C++ across multiple files to implement a new lifecycle function. Yep. What lifecycle functions could our engine currently be missing? That's a really good hint right there. Be ready to critique some code against data-oriented design principles. I'll elevate that this year. Be ready to write some code that is data-oriented, okay? And to critique and write some code with data-oriented principles. Remind yourself of AABB would not be a bad idea. Remind yourself of some of the softer considerations that come into play with game engines, right? So legal considerations, entrepreneurial considerations, all the different categories of game engines, okay? Why do we use game engines? What is an off-the-shelf versus proprietary game engine? What is integrated versus minimalistic versus beginner game engine, okay? Remind yourself of the basic history and progression of engines, okay? Go back to that second lecture, okay? Why do we even have this course? That might be useful too. And the different categories, yep. Stuff that won't really be on the exam, right? Lua bridge stuff. So all the complexities of like hooking up and injecting a C++ function into the Lua state, not going to be there, okay? And if any Lua bridge stuff is there, you'll receive hints from the question to get you rolling, okay? EECS isn't really a topic we programmed. We just briefly talked about it. Just remind yourself what it means, what it is, okay? And that's going to be helpful. All right. So, anyway, anyone have any questions? Any questions? Any comments? Lots of stuff. Now, on Wednesday, thinking, oh, what are we going to do on Wednesday? We've run out of topics. Well, on Wednesday, I think what we're going to do is we're going to go through the previous exam just to give you a feel for why, possibly why, not only why the answers are the way they are, but why they were designed the way they were. Which might be helpful to you. We're also going to go through the quiz that you just did to deal with some of the tougher questions on it and talk about those, okay? And then we'll have one more, I think, game engine of the day that may show up, might not show up. We'll have to see. And yeah, I might have a couple more things to say on Wednesday. because at that point, hopefully I'll be finished with the exam completely, aside from some typo and bug fixing. Hopefully the staff helps me find. Whew. Yeah. I think the exam's all right. I think it's kind of cool. Yeah, not too bad. Just depends how those Lua questions turn out. I got like 1.5 Lua questions still to do. Okay, you want a hint? A hint? Okay. May and Mags are going to show up big time in one of the Lua questions. Okay, that's your hint. It's not that great of a hint, is it? No, it's not that great. But it is something. So, anyway. Okay, any questions or comments? We're 3 minutes over time. I'm going to be here, hopefully help you cross the finish line at homework 8, 9, get as many points as you can. If you've got any exam questions, you can ask me that as well. I'm not going to show you anything, of course. But yeah, everyone, don't let this eat up your mind and soul. Okay, don't let this get you all tensed up and panicked. The exam is not trying to be mean at all. And if you've been just kind of doing a solid, a decent enough job in the main course, I think there's a good chance you roll out of that exam with quite a few points, okay, without having to put a tremendous strenuous effort into it. But please do at least go back and review everything you've done in the course, and that's going to put you in a really good position for Friday, okay? Yeah, but most of all, yeah, just don't let yourself get worked up or panicked. Back in the day, I would get so antsy and just I would lose all my energy. I'd lose my mind on the exam. I'd freak out, and then I'd have a bad score. Okay, yeah, don't let that happen. It's not going to be that bad. Okay, I promise. Okay, see ya. If you have office hours you need, the whiteboard is right up here. Please create an office hour queue, and I'll see you later.
Oh yeah, you have my full support.
Hey, they got better markers.
Now I get to the most fun part of trying to make a custom feature.
What are you people doing? Just bring it over here.
To petition to include the endless marble fountain as test cases.
Sure. Yeah, I don't care.
I sent you an update on the candle that looks better.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I just have to find some time to put it in. I probably won't put it in this year, but next year. I'll even credit you all with creating it. That's kind of cool. Okay.
I will see you.
See you Wednesday. Yep.
Got some people on the queue already.
Yep. Cool. All right. Review. I put exams instead of exam because it's future proofing.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Future proofing, we love it.
Okay. Well, this is literally just the exam. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, you want Marmar? Yeah.
Yeah, we want Marmar.
Sure. Yeah. Well, just give me a photo.
What's Marmar?
Give me a photo, please. Hey, come over here. Yeah. Come over here. And then send me an email, because my email is my to-do list.
Awesome.
Otherwise, I will forget. Okay. Test Marmar test case. Okay, everyone online, I'll see you later. Bye-bye.